And, I'm in my 40s. I brushed it off. I had just gotten a new pair of glasses. I thought maybe, it was just the glasses. And I let it go for a couple of days. And then my dear friend, who was also my editor, said, this has been 3 days, and I think you better really go get this checked. And so I made an appointment. I went in, and, my vision just seemed to be getting blurrier and blurrier. And the next thing I knew, they were putting drops in my eyes, and the ophthalmologist said to me, "You need to get to the emergency room right now." He said, "There's something going on behind your eyes, and we need to get to the bottom of this." And, he's saying things like brain tumor and MRI, and it just scared the living daylights out of me. And so, of course, I rushed to the hospital, rushed to the emergency room. And by midnight, I had a whole team of doctors all around the gurney, and there were neurosurgeons and neuro-ophthalmologists. And I remember the neuro-ophthalmologist, whom I still see today, she said, "Did you check behind her eyes?" They were all scaring me with the thought of a brain tumor. And they hadn't. And so, of course, she administered drops and ran some tests, ran a lumbar puncture, and found out that I have a disease called pseudotumor. It's basically a buildup of excess spinal fluid on the brain. And I was completely asymptomatic until my vision blurred. And at that point, it was too late to save my vision, because the pressure was so intense on my optic nerves that the damage was permanent. And that led to literally about 4 months of in and out of the hospital. I had, I think, 2 eye surgeries, 2 lumbar punctures, and then, of course, I had brain surgery to have the shunt placed. And I was also in the middle of finishing a book, which at the time was blemished. And it was my first standalone. I had written a series that did pretty well. And I was really proud of this book, because it was the first book that I did that was just one book in itself. And I loved the characters, and I was so excited about sharing it with my readers. And, suddenly I'm faced with not even knowing if I'd be able to write again. And my neuro-ophthalmologist was really, sort of my saving grace through all of that. And I told her, I said, "What am I going to do?" I said, "I have a book coming out in March." And what I didn't even realize was that I'd be having brain surgery in March. And I remember one of the worst days of my life was having to call Amazon and telling them that, I couldn't deliver the book on time. It had been up for pre-order. We were already doing promotion on it, and I couldn't put it out. And I remember the woman on the phone was so kind to me, but I just got off the phone and I just cried. And, at that point, I didn't know about assistive technology. I didn't, I knew none of that. And I of course, confided in my doctor, and she turned me on to Zoom text. She turned me on to going to a low vision specialist. She also turned me on to rehabilitation, which I'm also going to talk about a bit. But it was just painful, because everything that I did involved my sight. Going to the theater was a big hobby of mine. Going to museums, traveling, writing, even my career in public relations and marketing. Everything was visual in my life. And, I didn't understand at the time how I was going to get any of that back, if any of it. And I was determined, though. And I didn't waste much time sitting around and crying. I let myself mope for maybe a week, and I remember I went back to my neuro-ophthalmologist after my brain surgery, and I was crying, and I said I got to do something here, and that's when we really got the ball moving on vision rehab and using a white cane and just applying the tools that were available to me. And so I started that process immediately. I think I met with the Commission for the Blind not even a month after my surgery. Um, and we just put the wheels in motion. And I was so incredibly lucky to have met my mobility therapist. She saved my life. She didn't just teach me the importance of a white cane and how to use a white cane. She taught me about daily living and how to get around New York City and, how to make things happen. And, I remember everyone thought I was crazy. One of my best friends was having a birthday party in July. It was the beginning of July. And I had literally, I had just had my clearance for my surgery, my 3-month clearance. And I said, I'm going to his birthday party. And I took a train by myself from New York to Pittsburgh and went to his birthday party and celebrated that weekend with him. And everyone thought I was nuts, but my mobility therapist was cheering me on the whole time. She's like, I think you can do it. She's like, you're strong and you're independent. And if anybody can do this so soon after, it's you. And I did. And of course, that wasn't enough. I had to come back with my writing. I had to come back with my career, and I did. And I was lucky to publish Blemished later that year, with Zoom text, with the help of Zoom text. And that was another lifesaver for me, really, being able to see my screen again. And it was a learning curve for my editor, too. We have a very symbiotic relationship, and she and I are very in tune with each other. But, at the same time, she had to, learn how to be blind right alongside with me. There were things I couldn't see or places I wanted to describe. And, I lost my color vision. And I was diagnosed as legally blind, and there were things that I just couldn't see. So, she had to step in with describing photos to me or describing something I saw on TV and things like that. And, that was a big help to my career too, as a writer. And, it was just about really educating the people in my life and making them feel comfortable about my blindness. I'm also very lucky. I have a very close-knit circle of friends who wanted to learn about my blindness right alongside with me. And, it took them a little getting used to the white cane and what it does and, how it's used and what it tells you. And, but, they were very supportive at the same time, which meant so much to me. And I remember one of my best girlfriends, we went out to lunch not long after I learned how to use the white cane. And she was used to having to tell me every bump in the sidewalk before I had the cane. And I remember we were on our way back from lunch, and she realized on the way to the restaurant that this cane was telling her everything. She knows the dips in the sidewalk. She knows where there's a crack. And she stopped on the corner, and I remember she said to me, how about you tell me when you need help from now on? And that was the greatest thing, because I was like, she got it. She gets what this cane is doing. She gets what this cane is telling me. She gets that this cane has helped me. And, that's another moment that I will never forget from that whole first year. But, I was diligent about my vision rehab. And I'm still learning things, I'm learning how to cook now. I didn't see the need to learn about how to cook at the time, and I ordered out a lot. And last fall, I moved to a new apartment. I have a fabulous new kitchen, and I wanted to start cooking again. But what I didn't realize was you have to learn how to cook as a blind person now. You can't, it's not just the same old way you used to do it. And I called my counselor and my therapist, and she said, well, we didn't do it before, so we can go through cooking now. And so, she's been helping me with all the tools and the gadgets and the tips on, easier ways for me to cook. But getting back to that first year, it was one of the most difficult times of my life, but it was also one of the most exhilarating times of my life, because I really proved to myself my confidence and my independence. And I think at the time I was lacking that a little bit. And just being able to return to doing the things that I enjoyed, although in a different way, that really restored my confidence in myself. You know, Going to the theater, that was one of the biggest, and still remains one of my favorite pastimes. And I remember we went right before I went in for surgery. I went with my dear friend who is, I call him my fairy godfather. And actually, I'll talk about him more, but he became a character in Blindsided as Josie's godfather. But I remember we went to the theater, and I couldn't see the stage. It was all a neon blur to me. And that was also the day that he was the one that told me, I think you need to get a white cane, whether it's just for a marker or to actually help you get around, but I think you need to get a white cane. And those things stuck with me, and I ended up doing that. But I also found a low vision specialist, which is very different than your regular eye doctor. And they recommend specific tools based on your life. And they provided me with, I call them my steampunk binoculars, but they're literally glasses that have binoculars on them. And again, that same summer, I went to the theater with one of my girlfriends, and it was the first time I wore them. And I remember we were sitting in the front row, and at intermission, I could hear her just like pulling a breath. She was holding it because she didn't know if the glasses were working for me or not. And I took them off, and I looked at her, and I just started to cry, and I said, they're working. I said, they're working. And she and I just like broke into tears right in the middle of the front row in this theater on Broadway. But it was definitely a really sweet moment for me to know that I had theater back. And just it was filled with some really good moments too, alongside the bad. And like I said, I was determined to put Blemished out that year, and we had to work a little bit harder on the edits. But that book ended up coming out in September, and it did really well. My readers loved it. And I went on to write 2 books since then. One is Smitten, which is a romantic comedy, and the other is Blindsided. And both of those books won the National Indie Excellence Award for erotica. And I'm very proud of both of those. And I'm very proud that I went on from my vision loss to actually win awards for my writing. It validated it for me, and it made it real. But the entire time that I was sick and recuperating and in vision rehab, I kept thinking about the books that I write and linking that experience to an erotic novel. And, you know, I do write BDSM books, which are similar to 50 Shades of Grey books. But, you know, and for me, I kept thinking about the level of trust that's involved in a BDSM relationship, because, you know, there are darker levels of sexuality involved in the lifestyle, and your trust level in the person that you are with has to be a very deep trust. And alongside that, when you lose your sight, you have to have a very deep trust in the people that are in your life and in your circle and network of friends. And, you know, for me, I just thought the two were a perfect parallel. You know, having to have that trust in the relationship to begin with, but then also having to have the trust in a person to really support you in your vision loss as well, you know. And that's sort of where Josie and Oliver were born. Josie and Oliver are my hero and my heroine, and they are rival journalists. They dated when they were very young cub reporters at a New York tabloid, and he left her to become a war reporter because he felt she was better than him, and he sort of wanted to prove himself. And they hadn't seen each other in 10 years. And by circumstance, they are brought back together. And, you know, they're taking it very hesitantly with each other. And, you know, just as they both start to think, hey, maybe we can do this again, Josie loses her sight. And that's sort of, you know, the whole premise of the book. You know, how does Oliver fit into her life now? Can he handle it? There's also issues with Oliver has PTSD from his time as a war reporter. And then there's a lot of other sub characters in the book too, like Josie's mother, who was, you know, based a lot on my own mother. My mom was a single mom, and her mom is a single mom, and her fairy godfather, who again is based on a very dear friend of mine. Um, you know, and just various people in their lives, and it's really about rebuilding after vision loss and really fighting for your independence and fighting to keep as much normalcy as you can in your life, and teaching the others in your life, you know, how to sort of work around the sight that you've lost. And you know, I wanted it to be an uplifting story. I didn't want it to be sad, because I'm not sad about my vision loss. You know, I took advantage of everything I possibly could to get past it and to move forward and to move my career ahead. And so, you know, that's really what I wanted to show through Josie. And I also wanted to raise awareness of pseudotumor, which is the disease that I suffer from. And you know, I wanted that to be the reason that she lost her sight, because it's a rare disease, but a lot more people are discovering now that they suffer from it as well. And, you know, I want people to know that that's not a death sentence either. That's, you know, you can totally work your way around it and live quite a fulfilling life. So it's still a sexy book, but it's also, you know, it's also really, really uplifting. And, you know, that again was the reason I wrote it. Do you guys want to ask me some questions?
Sure. We have Jane with her hand up. Jane Schmidt, if you would like to come off mute.
Hey, Jane.
Hi, how are you?
Hey, thanks for coming.
You look gorgeous as always.
Oh, stop. I paid her. Fixing the meal.
No. I've read two of your books. I still need to read Blemish, but I love your character of Josie. And what I liked about her is that she's not perfect. And there's nothing Pollyanna about this story at all. Whether or not you incorporate some of the tragedies, sorry, my dog's barking. He's saying hello. But can you tell me, like, you talk a lot about things that are based on your mom. Can you tell me, like, the flaws? Like, how did you weave those in? Like, where did they come from? What were those inspirations of putting those things in?
To me, people are naturally flawed. And I don't think you can write a well-rounded character who's not flawed. I think all of my heroines and heroes, and even the sub-characters in my books, because the sub-characters usually play a pretty big part, I think everyone has their flaws. And I don't think you can write a well-rounded character without addressing those flaws. Josie was stubborn, a bit of a spoiled only child. She and her mother have, I don't want to say a Dickinsonian relationship, but it's either the best of times or the worst of times. They love each other so much that they get into arguments with each other and they butt heads, but her mother is just as stubborn as she is. And both of them are very independent. Both of them are very career driven. And Oliver has his flaws as well. He knows that he was a jerk to Josie. He was an absolute jerk. And he also, by circumstances, has grown over the years and understands now, 10 years later, where he needs to make amends. And he's not perfect in making his amends, and he makes mistakes, and he flubs up trying to figure out what Josie needs as a blind woman after she loses her sight. But I really feel that everyone is flawed, and you can't write a character unless you've got the good and the bad in there. And Josie certainly has her flaws, and Oliver and Camille and, his family and everybody in the book has their issues. So that's sort of just how I write characters. Good question.
Great book.
Edgar. That's her dog.
Sorry. I'll mute. Sorry.
No worries. Anyone have any more questions?
Yes, I have a question. Are you going to be writing any other books in the future?
Yeah, I've actually got a ton of ideas, and I'm sort of trying to sort them all out right now. I do want to do a book, and I kind of started a couple of ideas throughout COVID, and I'm trying to sort of figure out which one I want to do right now. I'm sort of in the mood to write a romantic comedy because I think everybody needs a little bit of a laugh after this last year, and I sort of have an idea for that one, about a divorced couple of all things. I'm also working on, it's a novella, which I really hope to get it done by Christmas this year, and it's not based on my friend, but I have a very dear friend from college who has lupus, and she's one of the main people in my support system because we both have these chronic diseases, and we talk about it a lot, and we lean on each other for support, and I've learned a lot about lupus through her. And the novella that I've started it already, the heroine in that book has lupus, and I have a bunch of other ideas that I'm just kicking around, and eventually I'm going to write the children's stories from my series, my Manhattan Bound series. They all had kids in the books, and my readers are all like, when are the kids going to grow up? We want to see who they married. And so eventually I'm going to write those, but I'm not ready for those kids to grow up in my mind yet. So that's going to be a few years away. But I've got like a ton of things that are brewing right now. But I always like to weave in some sort of social issue, and lately I've been writing older heroines because I'm getting older and I don't want to read about 21-year-old virgins anymore. I want to read about women who are strong and independent, and even if they're submissive, they are still independent and know what they want and need in life. And that's really important to me. For example, in Blemished, Chloe was homeless. In Smitten, January Gallimore, who is one of my favorite characters, that's my romantic comedy, which is SM, which hasn't really been done. They don't really write romantic comedy books about BDSM. A lot of authors take it very dark and very seriously, but you can write it without being disrespectful to the lifestyle, and at the same time finding the humor in it, in the daily lives. And January is, she's in her middle 30s. She was at one point an A-list actress, and now, she's finding those roles are drying up, and they're going to women who are 10 years younger than her. And, so we're dealing with ageism in that book. And, she's got two lovers to choose from. One is older than her and one is younger than her. And, I keep you guessing until the end of the book which one she ends up choosing. But, there's always some sort of social issue in the books. And of course, in Blindsided, we deal with blindness and we deal with PTSD. So, there's always some sort of underlying issues in my books, or, some sort of news hook or something to tie them in to what's happening in society.
Anybody else have any questions?
Yeah, my name is Miles Williams.
Hi there. Thanks for coming.
I think the dog was barking in the background. He liked what he heard too. That's why he was barking. And these characters in your book, how many of them are real and how many of them are fiction?
A lot of them are blended. I'd be lying if I didn't say that Josie was a lot of me. And I'd be lying if I didn't say that her mother was a lot of my mother. Some of them are fictional, completely fictional, just to move the story along. But, and some are more heavily influenced by people in my life than others. It's just sort of what happens in the story and where they take me. My books sort of start writing themselves, and if there's something in my life that I experience that I can inject into a character, then I do.
And the story you was talking about where the guy and the girl, they separated and they came back. What was the name of that one?
That's Blindsided, and that's my new one. And by the way, guys, Blindsided and Smitten are both on sale for 99 cents right now. So I just wanted to do a sale for everybody, just, since in honor of the event. So both of those books are on sale for 99 cents now.
So the lady in that book, is it anything about how she dealt with the fact that she lost her vision and accepting it, or is she still going to be a struggle for her to accept what's happening?
I will say this because I don't want to ruin the book for anybody. She does struggle. but it does have an uplifting ending.
Okay. Write
But
a
I
book about
didn't
Cassandra.
want to dance around the struggle, because everybody who loses sight struggles. And, I always say there's never a timeline on going through vision rehab. Some people are like me and like just want to get it over with and get back to life. Others have to really take their time and process it. It's a massive life change. And, I certainly didn't want to dance around anything that, she struggled with.
Okay. Next book you write, write a love story and name one of the characters, Cassandra.
Okay.
That's my girl, though.
I figured that.
Nice talking to you.
You too. Thanks for coming by.
This is
And
Tia.
good luck with your.
Hey,
This is
Tia,
Tia.
thanks for coming.
No problem. Where can I get your books?
They're on Amazon. They're all on Amazon.
Any e version, because I'm having a little challenge with my shipping company, so I can't get it.
Absolutely. They're all available in ebook, and they're all available text to speech. So, quite honestly, I would love to do audiobooks, but they are so expensive to produce. And I'm an independent author. I pay for everything myself. The marketing, the covers, the graphics, everything. You have to pay for photo rights and everything. I pay for everything myself, and I would love to do audiobooks, but I can't. It's just, it's way too expensive. And, but they are available in text to speech. And I know a lot of people that are low vision and blind that do read my books like that. So.
Okay. I'll work it out and get it. Yeah, I don't mind.
Great. Yeah, and two of them are on sale right now too. So.
Oh, okay, cool.
Can't you put it on YouTube?
What?
Can't you get it on YouTube? Because YouTube will read a book before you want to open it.
I'm not on YouTube. No.
Okay.
I watch a lot of it, but I'm not on there.
Jessica, did you have any questions for Juliette? You can come off mute, Jess, and
She's probably having a snack.
I have no idea, but hopefully she'll join us at some point in time.
So there's a couple of people that just joined.
Okay.
Juliette, if you wouldn't mind just giving a brief summary of your book again, and we are streaming on YouTube, so people will get to know more about your book.
I didn't know we were streaming on YouTube. I would have told my readers that. So I'm Juliette Braddock. I'm two-time National Indie Excellence Award author for my books Smitten and Blindsided. I've written 8 books so far. And my most recent, of course, is Blindsided. And that one was inspired by my own journey with vision loss. I lost sight in 2017. I was diagnosed with pseudotumor. And what that is it's basically a buildup of spinal fluid in the brain, and the excess fluid had pressed against my optic nerves and, damaged them permanently. And I was diagnosed legally blind. I really wanted to get back to my writing and get back to my career in public relations and marketing. And so I went through vision rehab really quickly, learned how to use the white cane, Zoom text, any tool at my disposal. And went on to, publish 3 books after my vision loss. One which is Blemished, which I was in the middle of editing when I lost my sight. And then, of course, Smitten and Blindsided. Blindsided is, and they're all erotic books. They're all BDSM romances. And it explores the lifestyle of BDSM. It's sort of like 50 Shades of Grey. But Blindsided was, of course, very, very dear to my heart. When I was going through my vision loss, I was just thinking about the books that I write and how, the trust level has to be so high between two people to, get involved in a relationship that involves BDSM. There are some very dark sexual things that goes on in those relationships. And you just have to have that infinite trust in your partner. And at the same time, I was realizing how much trust I had to have in everyone around me to help me, now that I couldn't see. And that whole thing, the having to have the trust in your partner and having to have the trust in, the people around you sort of go hand in hand in the book. And that's sort of where Josie and Oliver were born. Josie and Oliver are my hero and heroine, and they are rival reporters. They started their careers together at a paper in New York City, and then Oliver decided that he couldn't let Josie be a better writer than him and decided to become a war correspondent. And basically, he left her. She never got over it. And over the years, he sort of, had time and certainly, experiences in war that made him realize that, she was the one that he let go. And they meet up again 10 years later under sort of harrowing circumstances. And just as they start to maybe find that trust in each other again, Josie loses her sight. And it's really about rebuilding their relationship, rebuilding her life, rebuilding his life. Oliver suffers from PTSD, so, there's that issue going in the book as well. So, it's really about rebuilding and just sort of regaining life in a different way.
Sorry. I just wanted to ask, with your characters and with a lot of the storyline focusing on a BDSM kind of topic, do you feel that your characters kind of dispel any stereotypes that might refer to blind people or visually impaired people, like how so many people feel that it might be odd that blind people may have romantic relationships or physical relationships?
I was just about to ask that same question.
Yeah, and I think Josie says it in the book. Oliver is very hesitant to play, beyond, let's just call it regular sexual play. He's terrified to go beyond that with her. And, he's afraid he's going to hurt her. She's got a shot in her head. She can't see. He does not want to physically hurt Josie. And I think at one point she says to him, blind people can be kinky too. And, it is to dispel that myth too. I mean, we're still human beings. We still have feelings. Just because we can't see doesn't doesn't erase sexual desire or proclivities or, whatever you like in the bedroom. And, I think that's important for people to see too. You can still have a very full relationship of that nature and be blind or deaf or any disability. I mean, you just do things in a little bit different ways. Like, I'm not giving too much of the book away, but Oliver wants her to wear his bike helmet while they're scening because he's so worried he's going to bump the shunt. And Josie doesn't like that, but at the same time, she does it at first because she realizes that if she doesn't wear that bike helmet, she's not going to get his trust either. So the trust sort of goes both ways there. She has to rebuild trust with him to let him know he's okay as her dominant partner in spite of her vision loss. And he wants her to know that in spite of her vision loss, she's still absolutely safe with him. So, yes, it does in a roundabout way and a long story later. Yes, we are dispelling the myths there.
Anybody that came on that's new, anyone want to ask any questions? We have 2 people that are new.
Yes.
Alfonso or Alicia.
Elijah.
Elijah.
Thanks for coming, guys. I'm
Nice
happy to
to see
answer
the
any
link.
questions. Hey there.
I have one.
Hi, this
This is
Hey
Jessica.
there.
Alicia. I don't know if you guys hear me.
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead, Alicia.
I just went. Hi, this is Alicia. Sorry.
No worries. Thanks for coming.
No problem. I'm just not sure exactly what's going on, so I guess just kind of like to give me kind of like a recap of what happened, I guess.
I could fill you in. We have Juliette Braddock. She's an author. She wrote a book called Blindsided that's an inspiration of her visual impairment. She also won awards. We're talking about her book Blindsided and what's in the book that people can get from it.
Yes, and that's Cassandra. Cassandra is the chair of our book club. I'm Crystal Allen, and this book club happens on scheduled Saturdays from 5 to 6:30 with my nonprofit called Eyes Like Mine, Inc. And we do so many other virtual programs and activities, but today's special because we have Juliette with us, and she so happens to be legally blind, but she's also a great author, and she's written a total of 8 books, right, Juliette?
Yep.
And we're featuring her book today, which is accessible on Amazon. It's 99 cents. It's an ebook, and it's a great book that lets people know about a condition called pseudotumor cerebri, which I also have myself. I'm legally blind, going on 21 years. And I met Juliette in a Facebook group.
You go, girl.
And so it was really great that she was receptive to hearing what I had to share and wanting to be a part of today's gathering. And everybody who's on here, we're all from different areas. Some people are in New Jersey, and some people are in Jamaica, and some people are in other places. And we're also streaming live on YouTube. Yes, that's Tia from Jamaica. So, it's just another social outlet to get to know each other, to share ideas, to talk about some books that we can connect with. And we have a whole schedule of books that we'll be reading throughout the year, but we want to try to feature at least one visually impaired or blind author each month that we have our book club. And Jessica, she's on here. She's the co-chair of this book club. So, we hope that this won't be your first and last session with us, because we like to keep welcoming everyone on as often as we can. And if it piques your interest, if you have any recommendations or suggestions of books, we usually try to read our book either the week before or after we have our feature. And then we come together to discuss the book. It's usually on Zoom. Today, we're only streaming on YouTube because it's special, because Juliette is here. And any other time, we're a little more intimate, where we're just on a Zoom closed event. And whoever finds out about our book club, they're, welcome to join it on the day that it's scheduled. So we're really here for like about 90 minutes. And we'll have, it's not so formal. We want everybody to be comfortable, ask any questions at any time of anything that comes to mind related to the book or the author, and just have some really good raw discussion.
But this is Tia. Let me get into my broadcaster mode so that we're on YouTube. So, Juliette, what makes your writing so unique and different from other blind or visually impaired authors?
I don't know. Well, I don't know about just blind or visually impaired, but from other authors, I include a lot of detail. You really get to know my characters, and even if I don't tell you what they ate for breakfast that morning, you could probably tell me what they ate for breakfast that morning, because you get to know them that well. And my dialogue too. I've been complimented on my dialogue a lot over the years. Just that it's snappy and it fits, and they can actually hear the characters speaking, throughout the dialogue in my books, which that's always a special compliment to me. I love hearing that people can actually hear the heroine and hero talk to each other and that kind of thing. So that's always really special to me. But, I also, I do a couple of things that a lot of independent writers just ignore, and that's research and, really digging into whatever I'm writing about, sort of immersion in my subjects. There were parts in the book that like especially in Blindsided, and I don't want to give it away, but there was one part of Josie's journey that I didn't know much about, and I literally sat down with a friend of mine who is completely blind, and it was something that she had a lot of experience with, and she was glad to tell me more, and she just wanted to make sure I had all the details correct. And she even sent me to YouTube videos where I could find out more information and how things worked. But that's one thing that sets my writing apart, is I do research and I do interview people, and that's just my journalism degree in me. But that really does set my books apart. I think I try to make them as realistic as possible. Anyone?
That was my other question. When you're writing, that was my other question. When you're about to write, how do you do your research? How do you get your stuff ready, because there are people out there who want to know, like, how do you do it? How do you prepare your questions? So that was my second part.
I sort of get an idea and then I sort of take it from there. Where am I going to set it? Who are these people? What kind of homes do they have? What's their style? What's their fashion style? I sort of start putting all these elements of their personalities together. Just in my head, I don't really write anything down, but one thing that is very important for me, and even now that I'm can't see as well, now that I'm legally blind, setting is very important to me, because even if you can't see, you want a strong sense of setting. And I always try to put a very strong sense of setting. When I still could see, I would literally go to Google Earth. And like with Blemished, there's a whole part in the very beginning of the book where Gavin goes on a run through his neighborhood, which is outside of Chicago. And I could see at the time. And I literally went to Google Earth and I went on his run just so I knew what the neighborhood looked like and what he was seeing as he was going by, and, things like that. So, I sort of take it to the next level. And if it's, if it's a medical condition, I'll ask a doctor. I've got enough doctors that, I'm not afraid to say, hey, I'm writing a book. Can you tell me about this or that? With the case with Blindsided, I knew about pseudotumor from my own experience. But I talk to people. I do my research, and sometimes I'll just go somewhere to do my research if it's in Manhattan, or in Brooklyn or wherever. I did a lot of that with my Manhattan Bound series because obviously it was set in New York City. And sometimes I would just, I would start writing a scene or something, and I would just go to that place for some additional inspiration. So it's about immersion. And that's sort of, where everything starts coming together once you start writing the book.
I have a question. Who influenced you to write?
What?
Who influenced you to write? Was it a person?
I was always a writer from the time I was little. From what I understand, my father was a writer, but not a very good one. And, I would tell stories when I was little. And then once I learned how to print, my mother always encouraged me to write them down. And I think I was 6. And she got me one of those child's typewriters. And we had typewriters back then because I'm old. And she bought me a child's typewriter. And, I just started from there. And she encouraged me to do it. And then I had some really wonderful English teachers too, throughout elementary school and junior high school, who sort of recognized that I loved to write. And, they really encouraged me as well. And then I majored in journalism in college, and I had some wonderful mentors there. And so it was always, it was always in me. Always. I was always a storyteller. And, and then I went into public relations and marketing, which involves a lot of writing. But, I loved romance novels, and I loved really dirty romance novels. And I was like, you know what? I can do this. And I can write a book that's better than 50 Shades of Grey. And that's sort of what pushed me over the edge.
Yeah, my name is Miles. Once again,
hey, Miles.
Listen, your characters in this book, what's the limit you write? Like, the more, the better, or less?
What was that again?
Your characters, like say you write about a friend and their friend, do you add people to it, or just stick with a certain amount of characters in your book?
It depends. I have a lot of characters in my books. That's one thing I do. There's, there's always the hero and heroine, but there's a lot of sub characters as well. Again, it sort of happens organically, like as I get to know them as I'm writing the book, who they are and what kind of family do they have, what kind of friends do they have, and that's sort of how the sub characters start to emerge. So if that makes sense.
So when you write about characters, do you you put the ones that's most got an interest life than a normal one in there? More like people like to say, oh, that's interesting. I'd like to hear more about that, or she boring, or leave her out of it.
I think we all try to write the most interesting characters that we can. Really, it's about a character's contribution to the storyline. You can't just put a character in a book. They have to further the plot line in some way. Like Josie's godfather, he was her mother's best friend. He's gay. He knew he never was going to have children, never wanted children. And suddenly his best friend has a baby. And, this little baby girl, Josie, became his entire world. And he never realized that he could love a child so much. And, now 33 years later, she's all grown up. And how is he contributing to her life now? Where does he stand in her life now? And how does that move her life along as far as the plot of the book is concerned? So, it's things like that.
Okay, that leaves Crystal out.
Crystal, you want to rebut there?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
No, I was telling her when she was describing her character, I said, leave you out of it, so.
Oh my goodness, Miles.
Oh yeah, she told me your book is 99 cents.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, right now I only got 95, so give me a week. I should have the other.
Okay.
Don't listen to Miles, Juliette. Oh,
it'll be 99 cents till like the end of the month. I'm not gonna take it down right away. I'm gonna leave it in case people go back and watch this later or something.
Oh yeah, sure. So, and it's great because this is also Women's History Month, and to have Cassandra and Jessica lead our book club, they're women, and you're our featured woman author of this month for Women's History Month. So it's really, really great that you could be here today. I'm so glad that we could share you with our YouTube audience.
Well, I'm delighted to be here.
Yes. I do want to ask Cassandra if you wouldn't mind sharing our next few book selections with any dates that you might have, so that our YouTube listeners can connect with those books. It's a little after 6 o'clock. So we just want to let everyone know how they can continue to connect with what we're reading for this year. Sometimes we may shift and have, other titles sporadically, but for the most part, Cassandra and Jessica put the schedule together, and we look forward to continuing to read, and definitely read within our community, which is the blindness community, the disability community, so that we can support more authors who are out there really making an impression in the literary community. We did post this event up on our Meetup account. So we try to post different titles of the books on Meetup, on our Facebook, and just get more individuals to be aware of this book club and what we're reading.
All right. The next book we have on the list, March not March. April 3rd, that's going to be The Rainbow Fish. April 10th is going to be Unbreak My Heart by Toni Braxton. And then April 17th is going to be The Meaning of Mariah Carey. So that's what
Mariah Carey, the singer?
Yes.
I
She
used
wrote
to
a
date
memoir.
her.
Yeah. I didn't know Toni Braxton wrote a book.
Neither did I, but I looked it up and I found it.
Yeah,
That
she
is
wrote
one of
a
my
memoir.
favorite songs too. I love that song. I gotta read this now.
Hey, didn't she write a book about her son's disability? Dealing with her son?
I don't know. Maybe if you come back, you'll find out.
She's in the process of writing it.
Oh.
Oh, okay.
Did you have any questions for Juliette, Jessica, before we close out?
No, I do. What was, when you were a kid, what was your favorite authors growing up?
Oh goodness, I had so many favorites. You know, I read Judy Blume and
author.
I read Judy Blume, Beverly Cleary, who just passed. You know, those were really important books to me. But I also loved, there was actually a teenage romance author, and her name was Norma Klein, and her books were kind of racy for the day. And I read a lot of those. They were always teenagers involved in some kind of romance, but I read a lot of her books. I remember one was particularly interesting. They were all set in the 70s because, you know, I was born in the 70s. But anyway, the one book, I think it was called My Life as a Body. The hero in the book, he was like a football star, and then he was injured, and I think it was like from the waist down, and he hired, you know, like the nerdy girl in class to help him with math, and she was tutoring him, and they ended up falling in love with each other. But you know, she had some really great books. And then, you know, I started reading romances when I was a teenager. Jackie Collins, Danielle Steele.
Oh my God, Danielle Steele's amazing.
Some of her books, it depends on who edits them.
Yeah.
Some of her books are much better than others, but you know, that's what I read growing up. You know, V.C. Andrews, even with her weird little books, I read a lot of her stuff when I was a teenager. You know, stuff like that. I was always reading romance, and you know, I would literally swallow a book in a night. Like, you know.
Hey, you ever heard of Michael Landon, who did Little House on the Prairie?
Yes.
He did a story about a kid who lost his mobility in his leg from the waist down, and met this girl that he was tutoring, that tutored him, and they fell in love too. And that's same thing about that too.
Yeah. But,
I grew up on Judy Blume too. Like when I was 12, my mom purchased me her first book. Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret.
Oh yeah.
And I swallowed.
They're doing a movie of that now.
3 days. Huh?
They're doing a movie of that now.
I know.
But I read like the original version of it, and they've changed years because things have changed. And oh yeah, I remember that. I think we were in 4th grade when we read it, and we were like passing it around to each other and sneaking it.
That's so funny. Yeah, my mom, when I turned 11 or 12, that was my first teenage book by her. And I still remember it to this day because I swallowed that book in like 3 days.
I think by the time I was 12, I was like, I wanted like romances, like the hardcore romances at that point.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. Bad girls, what you
I
gonna do
was, and
when
I
they
used to
come
hide
for
them on
you?
my bookshelf. I used to hide them on my bookshelf because I would take my grandmother's books and hide
Oh
them.
wow.
Yeah, because they had a lot of books like that back then.
Oh yeah.
You had to hide them.
Well, I found my grandmother's hiding place for them, and then I would take them and hide them. And my mother told me later, she's like, I knew exactly where they were. So.
Well, we're going to reach our close. And I do want to thank Juliette for being here today and sharing about your book.
My pleasure.
And thank you, Cassandra and Jessica, for coordinating today.
You're welcome.
I do want to ask I do want to ask all three of you guys to just leave your contact, being that we're streamed on YouTube, so that people can stay connected with you, Juliette, and hear more about how they can connect with your books on Amazon. And Cassandra and Jessica, if you would share your email so that any people who might be interested or who might want to suggest authors or book titles for our book club, we can receive them. So Juliette, you can start.
Sure. I'm on Facebook, and it's Juliette, Juliet, and last name is Braddock, B as in boy, R-A, D as in dog, D as in dog, O-C-K. And I have a follow page, and I have a friend page, so you can friend and follow me. I'm also on Twitter. I think it's just Juliette Braddock. I don't do a lot with Twitter, and if anybody has a question, you can always email me at juliettebraddock@aol.com.
All right. Thank you, Juliette. Cassandra.
Thanks for having me, Crystal.
Yes.
Thank you definitely for coming on, and finally this was able to push through and work out. So I'm so glad you were able to join us.
Thank you so much for joining us. We definitely appreciate it.
Thank you.
My email address is
Take care.
club@icelikemine.org.
Oh, Cassandra, can you say it over, because
yes, I can.
There was someone else speaking.
It's book club@icelikemine.org. That's my business email. And I also put it in the chat as well. And definitely come on out. If you're new, definitely come join us. We're here every Saturday from 5 o'clock to 6:30 p.m. Eastern.
All right.
And then my email is media@icelikemine.org, and my name is Jessica. And like Cassandra said, feel free to reach out to me and give us your book ideas. And whoever is new in the world, whoever loves to read, can hop on and join us from every Saturday from 5 to 6:30.